When you have your girls, you're never alone. You get together for coffee, maybe to work out, or just to laugh. We created Hey Girl, just for you. Can't wait for you to join us.
Hey everybody, welcome to Hey Girl. I'm your girl, Kim with an E, and this is episode 68. If you're joining us for the first time, just want to let you know that Hey Girl is a safe space where you can share your experiences and be affirmed. Let's face it, life can be complex and sometimes overwhelming. That's why we believe in the power of conversation, because knowing you're not alone is what helps you get through. So come on in the room, everybody. We are here for another great conversation. I'm so glad to have you. Go ahead and put in the comments that you're here. Say hello. Tell me where you're joining from. Tell me how you're feeling today. And go ahead and like and share this page, share this live so that everyone you know can be a part of this conversation today. I'm very excited to kick off a brand new theme. Can't believe we're already in the month of August. Everything is opening back up. Schools are starting. Maybe the schools where you are have already started. I know some kids went back this week. And yeah, so a little sad that summer is over, but here we go. And all this month, we're going to be talking about what going back is going to look like now that we are somewhat coming out of COVID, but not really. It's just going to be very interesting. It's just going to be very interesting. And I know you probably are in some ways a little anxious about what this is going to look like, but we're going to talk about that today and actually every week this month. So be sure to tune in. So I want you to share in the comments, what are you most worried about right now? What is it that gives you the most anxiety as we enter into the season? Or maybe you haven't even fully come out of whatever the season is that we've been in. Share in the comments what you're worried about, because that's what we're going to be talking about today. You know, I may be a little melancholy today. It is August 7th, and that date is very personal to me. I shared with you all a few weeks ago, oh, I guess it's been a month now, that I lost my sister. Her name is Katrina Brantley. And today is her birthday. So I guess you could say I'm in my feelings a little bit today about that. If you have lost someone, I'm sure you know how hard that can be to go back to normal, whatever the new normal might be once you've lost someone you love. And I guess that's kind of where I am today. And it's particularly interesting today because she and I were kind of birthday sisters as well. Today is her birthday and Monday is mine. And this will actually be the first year that I have celebrated my birthday without her. So, yikes, right? So yeah, I just wanted to honor her today by calling her name. And certainly she is in my thoughts and in my heart. And I'm sure those of you who have experienced loss can relate to that, right? You never really get over losing someone you love. You just figure out how to go on in spite of that. And so, you know, it's kind of, like I said, in keeping with the theme of today. It's going back, right? Whether that's going back to school, going back to work, going back to whatever the new normal is. It's not easy because there's always some adjustment that has to be made. And then as I think about my sister in particular, I really want to encourage you to cherish your loved ones, because you always feel like you have tomorrow with them. And it's easy to take them for granted, and assume that you can, you know, not take that call when it comes in, or I'll call them later, or I'll talk to them later, or I'll see them later. But we really shouldn't, you know, when you lose someone, you really think about how fragile life is and how tomorrow isn't promised to any of us. So if you still have your loved ones in your life, your parents, your siblings, just hold them close and don't take them for granted, because once they're gone, you'll really miss them and probably wish you had done that while they were here. All right. Who's with me today? If you're here, say hello. and tell me how you are approaching this fall season as we prepare to go back. What are you most worried about? Before I introduce you to my guest for today, I want to remind you that if you are watching this in the replay, welcome. Happy to have you as well. And if you know of those who are not on Facebook, it's okay because you can also share this. This episode will be recorded and uploaded to our YouTube page. We have a YouTube channel, and all of our past episodes are there for you to catch up on. And if there's a particular episode you would like to share with someone who isn't on Facebook, certainly would appreciate if you did that. Also want to remind you about our Hey Girl High Five. Of course, as you know, our mission here at Hey Girl is to support one another, to encourage one another, and particularly to promote our sisters who are doing good work. All of the companies that are listed on our Hey Girl High Five are, if not women owned, they are minority owned companies that we think are doing good work. They made the list because we like their products and we believe in their cause. And if you think you have or know of a Black owned or woman owned business that is worthy of a high five, we encourage you and invite you to send that recommendation to us at heygirlfb@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to add them to the list. And if you're looking for that list that we just flashed after the show, you can go to the Hey Girl Facebook page and just click on photos. And there's an album there with those images that were just on your screen. All right, guys, so don't forget to share this live and be sure to let your friends and family know that we are here. I'm particularly excited to welcome my guest for today. She's going to talk to us about what this going back might look and feel like, and also give us some resources for how we can get through. Janna Peterson is the founding executive director of 57 Northampton, a mental health advocacy nonprofit that provides mental health therapy to those without access, teaching healthy coping strategies and promoting mental health awareness. She has spoken at venues across the nation, is a national award-winning artist and author of The Little Girl with the Too Big Hair. And when she has free time, she enjoys playing the piano, drawing, ice skating, cooking, traveling, and taking naps. I'm here for that. So glad to welcome my friend Janna Peterson to Hey Girl. Hey girl.
Hey girl, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Really good today. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's awesome to have you. I've only just met you, but you're already just a delightful person. I'm feeling the energy. I like the energy that you give off.
Thank you.
So I'm just glad to have you here. So last month our theme was summer fun. I feel like that was just yesterday, and already we're back to school. But I was asking everyone last month, what's your favorite thing about summer? And I didn't ask you earlier when we were talking whether you even like summer or whether summer is something. Some people are like, nah, it's too hot. I'm ready for the fall. But if I were to ask you what you will miss about summer, how would you answer that? Do you think there's something you will miss now that summer is over?
Just in the spirit of gratitude, I really try to find the good in all the seasons, even though Huntsville, Alabama in July is something else,
Yeah, I agree.
But I really do. There's just kind of, outside of it just being warm and everyone being outdoors, there's like a spirit of optimism that comes with the summer, like you can go outside, you can go travel, you don't have, a lot of us don't have to answer to some of us don't have to answer to a boss, don't have to go to school, those kinds of things. And so there really is this kind of like optimistic kind of I can do anything feel that comes with the summer that you don't necessarily get in the colder, darker months. So I will.
I agree.
Yeah.
So you will miss that.
I will miss that. Yes, I will miss that and watermelon. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So for me, it's the reindeer cherries. I was telling everybody last month, oh, go get the reindeer cherries. They're only out there in the summertime. But yeah, like even if you don't like summer necessarily, it's not your favorite season, it's too hot, blah, blah, blah. I agree, there is that sort of optimism. And I was telling everybody last month, it's like, this is the time when you can like step out of your comfort zone and try something new and do something around the house that you haven't done before or you've been meaning to do and haven't gotten to it. And, it's like just an easier pace in general. And, it's just kind of, it invites sort of, new things and adventurous things,
Absolutely.
I feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, as you go back into the fall and winter, it's this mood and the kind of atmosphere of, okay, time to get serious again, buckle down, and then as it gets colder, it's like you're not hanging out outside and, doing things as much, not moving around as much, especially me because I hate the cold, So.
Yeah, I completely understand that. Ask me again in the fall what I like about fall, because I like as I've gotten older, I feel like autumn has kind of become my favorite. And I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so I am like me and the cold are like this,
Oh, wow.
But I agree with you. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, I think when I get the most depressed, honestly, is when the time changes and the sun starts setting earlier. Oh man, I'm just depressed after that until it goes back. Honestly,
it's so abrupt. I feel like that's it, you're kind of easing into it for a while, and then there's that time change, and you just lose. Yeah. And, so I 100% agree with that. What I started to do is kind of lean into like, Christmas is coming and, you get all like I feel like Christmas was strategically placed in like the coldest month, because then you have all of these lights and all of this, shininess, and so it really kind of helps to elevate the spirit. But
yes,
when January comes around though.
I know. January is when it's like serious winter blues.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah. It is. Yeah. Oh man, we might have to have you back in January just to help us.
Yeah, I've got some coping strategies for January. Just ask me about that.
Yes. We will definitely put that on the list.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned that you're from Milwaukee, which is so interesting. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and what your educational background is.
Okay, so I am, from Milwaukee. I graduated from Oakwood. I got a degree in communications and English, which a lot of people find just really interesting because it has nothing to do with what I'm doing now, except that I do communicate primarily in English. So, there's that.
Hey, can't argue with that.
But yeah, I am. And so, this is a question that I actually get a lot is, when I talk about 57 Northampton, people asking me where the name came from. And that actually comes from the street that I grew up on when I was a child in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So that's fair. Yeah. I modified it a little bit because my mom was like, don't put our address out there.
Right. Right. So are your parents still there? And
my dad still lives there. My mom passed, unfortunately, but my dad he doesn't live in that house, even though he does still own the house. But he does still live in Wisconsin. But yeah, my heart and my soul just remain in Milwaukee, no matter how long I've been gone. And Mm-hmm.
Got you. Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. I love the name 57 Northampton. Sounds so trendy. So tell us a little bit about what 57 Northampton is and how you came up with this idea to start this nonprofit.
Yeah, well, 57 Northampton, we are a mental health advocacy nonprofit, and we primarily work by providing free therapy to those without access. So that's children, adults, whoever needs a therapy, and you can't pay for it out of pocket, you don't have insurance that covers it, so we provide that. And then we also have supplemental services where, we basically because there's a lot of fear and a lot of stigma surrounded with going to therapy, even sometimes even just talking about mental health, and a lot of fear of the therapists themselves. So we create programs, so paint and sips, workout classes, trivia nights, things like that, where people can come and we'll talk about mental health. Oftentimes we'll have a therapist right there. So they're not there, talking to you or giving you any kind of treatment, but they're just there being a person. Because a lot of times when people are, there's that fear of going to therapy, there's a fear of judgment. There's a fear that what you say will not be kept confidential. There's a fear that this therapist is just working they want to medicate you or put you in some kind of institution. And so having these events where they can come and, interact with the therapist in this kind of non-confrontational, very low stakes environment, been really, really helpful. And then additionally, just some of what we offer is, the work it out class is one of our favorite ones to do. And it's basically a physical workout with a mental health focus where you're working out. And as you're working out, we're talking about, how to set goals, how to reframe negative thoughts, how to push in difficult moments, how to embrace what we call the discomfort zone. And then, at the same time, it's also working out for that immediate mental health benefit that you get from exercise, which is that dopamine, that endorphin, that runner's high. So that was a long way to answer your question.
Yeah. It sounds great. So the exercise classes and other things, are those open? Like you just advertise them widely, anyone can come, or what's the requirement or stipulation?
There's no requirement. Of course, we had just started actually doing the Work It Out class when everything shut down. So we've been primarily doing those online. So if you have Wi-Fi access and you have a screen that you can look at us on, then you are invited. You are, you can come. We are looking, as things open up, to hopefully have some socially distanced versions of those classes. But those will be coming soon.
Got you. So how did you, like you said, your background's communications and English, which is interesting because mine is too. I didn't know we had that in common.
Oh, wow.
So how did you go from that degree background to doing mental health and therapy?
That long version or short version?
Well, let's see. How much time do we have? Okay, somewhere in between the long and the short. How about that?
So it basically started with me not being able to get a job out of college.
Oh no, don't say that. All the communications and English majors are like,
No. It was because I graduated in 2010. We were in a recession. So
Thank you.
I actually had a job lined up and it fell through. And it was the only job I had lined up because I just put all of my eggs in that basket. But that fell through. And so about maybe 8 or 9 months into my meager employment, me and my sister, we started a blog called Kiss My Curls. And it was a natural hair blog, just talking to African-American women with kinky hair, just about ways that they could style their hair, busting myths about hair, trying to encourage them. Your hair is professional. It is beautiful, that kind of thing. And basically just try to provide emotional support for people that were just going on their natural hair journey. And from there, though, we started to realize that a lot of the issues that these women were having was not necessarily knowing how to manage it, because we were showing them how to manage it. We were even sending them products and, that kind of thing. But it was really just they had internalized, they had taken on a lot of negativity surrounding their hair. A lot of them had been bullied, in school, but also just by well-meaning family members who just, felt like, that hair is not acceptable because that's how they were raised. But we realized what we're dealing with is not the texture of your hair. It's not what's on your head. We said it's what's in your head. And so from there, I actually wrote a book called The Little Girl with the Too Big Hair. And so that book, it was basically, I was thinking, okay, if we were to tackle this problem at the root, what would it look like? And it would look like, in my opinion at the time, it would look like talking to the little girl. and not talking to us, but going to the root before they take on all that damage and instilling confidence right then and there. So that was the book, The Little Girl with the Two Big Hair. And it was just about this little girl who, she needed to have confidence because she was getting bullied and all of that. And when I released the book, though, of course, the audience was primarily African-American little girls, but a lot of people from different demographics, different races, male and female, they just were really kind of attracted to the message of just confidence and accepting and embracing yourself. And so from there, it became more of like, instead of just about hair, it became about mental health. It became about confidence. And that kind of bridged into where we are now with teaching, instead of just, we're just talking about all around, not just confidence, but just mental health in general. You're going to have bullies, but, when you get past that, like, how do you get past that in a healthy way?
Wow, I love that. Like that's so perfect at what you shared, because that is so true. I think anyone out there, any Black woman out there can certainly identify with that pressure to look a certain way. And like you said, the pressure that we get even from childhood, and the fact that it's so, and I've had this conversation with women before. In fact, in February, we had this whole thing about Black women and beauty, and we really did dig into the emotional and mental connection that we have with this idea of beauty. And I love I'm going to buy the book, by the way. So you guys go to Amazon, get the book, because I'm very interested in reading that. And I think that it's so important for our little girls to begin to have a healthy sense of self early on, because then it'll be a lot easier for them as they become adults. And for those of us who, didn't have that, we have to work a little harder to feel good about ourselves regardless. So that's awesome. So this whole mental health emphasis grew out of that. Yeah. And so what was the next step then after writing the book? And did you do the artwork as well?
I did do the artwork. I'm resisting the urge to give a disclaimer about the artwork because, as an artist, you're also looking and being like, oh, that's not right. It's ugly,
Super critical. No, it's not. No, don't even go there. So anyway, yes, you did the artwork for the book. Awesome. Okay. So after the book, then what? What was the next step?
So after the book, actually, even before the book came out, I was getting requests to speak on the book. And so, so I put the book out there. I went to one event and spoke on it, and it just kind of took off from there. Going to different conferences, going to different schools. It eventually bridged. Within 6 months, I was on a national tour, going to different schools and talking to students directly about not just ways that they could, kind of reinforce themselves against, like, not just bullying, but some of the rougher aspects of life. But we were also talking about bullying, too, and ways that students could be more inclusive of the students around them and that kind of thing. And just in an effort to kind of sustain everything that had been created so quickly, we developed 57 Northampton as kind of a framework around that. And so that's how 57 Northampton came to be. And we were working primarily with children up until the pandemic, actually. Yes. Mm-hmm. Of course, when the pandemic happened, line, primarily we're looking at, the teachers that we've connected with and the adults, basically. But we also started, okay, people's mental health is just being really horribly impacted. We're doing, exercise to feel better. Let's paint. And it's like, but what's the root of the problem? Like, there's only so much jogging can do for you. Decided to offer. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I'm there's so many questions. I'm like, this is fantastic. Like, okay, so first of all, I want to just put a plug in for the communications and English background, because it just goes to show that you can do just about anything with that foundation. And so just a little plug there. But also, I'm just really interested in how so did you do research to bring in the understanding of mental health and all of its impacts, or did you connect with those who were professionals in the mental health field. And I'm asking that, like, when you started doing the whole digging into the cause of people's anxiety and things like that. And I asked that because I'm wondering if then that allowed you to bridge these relationships and connections with therapists as you came to put your organization together.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of both. So before I even, kind of started into offering the free therapy, I have been, reading, researching, taking classes, getting certifications, that kind of thing. But I would never, ever call myself a therapist. And that's the reason why I want to bring in others. I'm like, I'm not the professional here. I am passionate about it, yes. And I feel that me not having a background and being this passionate about mental health, I hope that is kind of a beacon for other people. Like, you don't have to be a therapist to care this deeply about mental health. But it's the reason why I felt it was important to bring in actual licensed, degreed professionals into this to really help us with the effectiveness of our programs and with the, deciding what is most important to offer and when.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, okay. So just a real very practical question then, because I love the fact that professionals are willing to participate in what you're offering, but at the end of the day, how are they getting paid for what they're offering? Because you said this is open to people who don't have insurance, who can't afford to get therapy. So who are these therapists that are willing to, are they just doing pro bono work? Where does the funding come from for what you're offering? It just seems too good to be true.
It is for everybody but us. Like, we are, the 57 Northampton foots the bill. And so donations as with any nonprofit, donations are what keep us afloat. And so with those donations, we are able to go to different therapists, and a lot of them have been so gracious in offering us sessions at discounted rates. So that instead of getting maybe one session for this price, we can get 2 or 3 for this price. So they are getting paid, but not what they would. This is absolutely a labor of love from them as well as us. But yeah, so we pay the therapist, and as these sessions are available and people sign up, we just send them the information. This is the therapist that you're going to be seeing. This is their information. We do give a week to set up the appointment. And that's because we have our waiting list is growing. And we have been really, really fortunate that we haven't had to have anyone on the waiting list for more than 2 weeks so far. And I think that that's important because mental health, I mean, it's a very fickle thing, By the time you get to the point where you're signing up for therapy, especially if you're someone who is generally has an aversion to therapy, you're already, you need to see that person immediately. Right. And so I give you 1 week. We give you 1 week to sign up, and you sign up, you make your appointment, you go, you see your therapist, and that's what it is basically. If you haven't after 1 week, then you unfortunately do have to go back on the waiting list. But yeah, that's how we do that.
Well, I think it's such a blessing that this resource is available, and particularly considering the time that we're in right now. And you mentioned that, when COVID happened, there was this shift. What were some of the things that you all saw as we entered into this last year and a half of COVID stuff?
Man. Well, I'm just like, I'm, trying to be succinct. But, of course, at first dealing with, adults primarily who were, just scared, watching the news, everything shuts down. I had these plans for the summer. All of a sudden I can't do this. A lot of uncertainty and anxiety. There a lot of grief and depression because we started seeing loss, just that we kind of in numbers and amounts like we've never seen before, but it's interesting going into this year, and I would say starting in about March, April, we started hearing from parents who were just very concerned about their children. Parents who were, they're reporting their kids are, experiencing anything from, my kid, they were calm before, they were just the sweetest kid, and now there's temper tantrums and, violence. They're angry all the time. They're crying all the time. My child is kind of showing, suicidal behavior, that kind of just really this huge kind of shift that's happened, especially among children. Yeah, so it's been very, and of course, if you're hearing this from parents, these are the parents that are fortunate enough to be attentive enough to see that their kids are struggling. There are so many parents in this pandemic that all they've been able to do is just keep their child afloat. So I have to work, I have to provide, and as much as they want to be more attentive, their energy has to go to providing and that kind of thing. So they're not necessarily able to see when their child is in crisis. And so it's been, kind of eye-opening to me to see these are the parents that we're hearing from. What about the parents that we're not hearing from? What about the children who are not actually being seen, even if it's, despite someone's best, best efforts?
Right. Yeah, that is so true. And I know parents were particularly overwhelmed when kids were sent home and suddenly the parents had to also be teachers.
Yeah.
And I know that was just like overwhelming. And then you have kids who are have different styles of learning. And so now all of a sudden they have to all be kind of the same type of learner because there's just this limited delivery of their, So I know there's been a lot of concern around that, a lot of stress for both parents and kids. And so what do you see happening now as we're coming on this side of it? Things are kind of opening up. Because I feel like we're in such a precarious position right now, because although in a lot of ways it's better than it was a year ago, we now have vaccine out there, we have this intervention that's possible. There's all this sort of division in the country over the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated, and opening up or not opening up, mask mandate or no mask mandate. It's just this. It's I don't know if it's better or worse, to be honest.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's this attempt to go back to some type of normal, and there's not a normal, This isn't even the new normal. It's going to change again, probably several times before the year is up, and so what we're seeing is, it's almost this just disorientation, because there's a lot of, I see a lot of people that it's crazy. It's even happened with me. I'm sure it's happened with you, where you're like, okay, I've finally gotten the hang of this. I finally know how to operate with this. And then something changes. And so change is difficult regardless of what the change is, how much time you've had. But when it's this amount, it keeps happening. You have to continue to adapt. There's, of course, we want to be adaptable and that kind of thing, but we're humans. We also crave stability and we crave predictability, And so the fact that element has been tossed out the window for the past year and a half, we are seeing heightened anxiety, depression. Like I said, there's the grief, there's the loss, of course, that comes with everything that we've been through. There's a lot of anger. There's sadness. It's just
everything, basically.
Everything. We're seeing everything. Yeah.
Okay, so we just painted the picture of why we need therapy, all of us. So let's give a little, silver lining, shall we? Let's talk about what we as parents can do for our kids, what we can do for ourselves as we move into this somewhat new normal, which will probably change again. But in order to manage, what are some of the tools, what are some of the resources that we need to know about?
Okay, so I'm going to do this in two parts, first for kids and then for adults. So kids, well, I'll start with adults because adults affects kids, quite a bit. So for adults, I feel that we've actually kind of been given this opportunity to really, this is, I would say this is like mental health. This is like boot camp, this is hard. This is the hardest thing that a lot of us has ever dealt with. And so one of the things that we need to do is actually, what I'm seeing a lot more of, and what we need to see more of, is the embracing of talking about mental health. We need to talk about it because it's being affected whether you talk about it or not. But you know that admitting there's a problem is the first step to overcoming that problem. And so first, you need to be open to talk about your mental health. You need to understand, some of the signs that my mental health might be in decline. And you need to also be open and willing to talking about ways to address that. It can be getting therapy. Therapy is an excellent step, but there are also things that you can do at home. You can practice things like mindfulness, which is really just to kind of center yourself in the moment. And it's a really good way to, manage stress and manage worry and manage anxiety. You can do things like set healthier boundaries for yourself so that you can give space to some of what you're feeling. You can, of course, exercise and working out is a good way to manage stress because it does give you that runner's high, so you get the immediate benefits, but then you also get, I believe it makes you 26% less likely to slip into a depressive episode if you have been depressed before. And it's also a good way. It's as effective as medication for moderating mild to moderate depression. So there's exercise, there's nutrition, paying attention to what you're eating, getting sleep, letting yourself get sleep. Oh my God. I had a whole conversation about that this week. But getting rest, that's a part of it, but there's so many different things that us as adults can do to care for and maintain our mental health. But I would say the very first thing is to just be aware and be okay with talking about it. That's the number one thing. And then moving on to kids are the number one thing. I'm not the number one thing, but the first thing that I want to mention is that kids mirror our behavior. And so if we are comfortable talking about our mental health, if we're comfortable saying, mommy's not feeling the best today, or daddy, he needs a break right now. Our kids can start to learn, okay, instead of, getting angry or that kind of thing, maybe it's okay for me to say, I need a break right now. I just need to go take 10 minutes to get myself together. So that's the first thing, is that we need to model this behavior for our children so that they can know what to do. But then also, I was talking to some of our therapists, and they were gracious enough to provide me with some resources that parents can share with their children. And so there's some mindfulness techniques in there, where there's one where it's like, as you wake up, let's think about one thing that before you get out of bed, a parent with a child, talk to me about one thing that you can hear. What's one thing that you can smell? What's one thing that you can touch right now? And that really helps to kind of ground you, so practice mindfulness techniques with the child. There's this really good one. It's the worry coping cards. And so, so if your kid is worried, and there's a lot of worried kids right now, a lot of anxious kids right now, going back to school, it could be an anxious time in a regular world,
Right. Yeah.
But these worrying coping cards, so it's basically, okay, you're worried. Let's think about the worst thing that could happen with this worry. All right.
Yeah.
If you're worried, how about we practice some grounding techniques? How about we practice some gratitude? How about we practice some breathing, that kind of thing? And so, so they provided me with those resources as well. And those are some kind of good exercises to go over. They're fun, but they also do help to teach your child how to have more autonomy with their mental health, how to recognize what they're feeling. It's not, this is just a bad feeling. I feel scared. But to actually identify some of the emotions that they're feeling so that they can feel more in control.
Yeah. I think something that's very important that you said is that the parents have to do this for themselves first.
Yes.
I don't know that we always appreciate how much our kids are watching what we do, listening to what we say. And so doing those things for ourselves first, setting that standard, is so important. And also giving them the language to use to talk about what they're experiencing, what they're feeling, helping them to articulate that, giving them the tools so that they can put words to those emotions, I think is also really powerful for getting control over them.
Yes, absolutely. And can really make your job as a parent a lot easier when your kid, instead of, throwing a tantrum, they can say, I feel anxious, I feel worried, I feel upset,
Yeah.
So,
and a lot of times the acting out is because they don't have the language for it.
exactly.
That, they don't know what to do with those feelings. So we can help
Exactly.
them with that.
Yeah.
And too often, I think what ends up happening if parents aren't aware is that they just react to the behaviors of their children without understanding where those behaviors are coming from and tackling the core issue.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's a real, if a parent can understand this, then it will no longer be a missed opportunity, but it'll be a really brilliant opportunity to teach these kids, some mental, emotional skills that will really serve them well beyond 2021. So
Indeed. Yeah, that's really great. And as I listen to you talk, I'm proud of what you're doing. I'm happy to showcase what you're offering and to make people know that this resource is available. And I'm wondering, because we keep going back to the background, which is so different from what you're doing now. But how do you see what you're doing now as actually fulfilling God's purpose for you?
I see it in a lot of ways. I'm trying to figure out how to be succinct with this, but I know that when I graduated, everything fell through, and I just started kind of moving. Even though things were happening, I wasn't necessarily failing in the traditional sense. I did feel like I'm like, this is not what I had in mind for myself,
Yeah.
not where I thought I would be at 23 or 25 or, but it's interesting. I was even having a conversation with a friend a couple days ago, and I was thinking about how, I think about the Robert Frost poem, knowing how way leads on to way I doubted if I would ever come back. That's the road not taken, And I'm just thinking about how all of these steps that felt like they were steps in the wrong direction actually kind of led me to this purpose, because I really feel that, when we talk about, whenever I go and I talk to someone and I say, we have the free mental health therapy that you can use if you don't have access. The first thing that I'll hear is like, oh, I can't pay for that. And I'm like, you didn't hear the free part, just for it and just show up. That's all you have to do. And the feeling of relief, when people realize that there are no strings attached, you just go. You need to talk to someone, just go. It's been really moving, honestly. I might choke up a little bit. It's just been really, really beautiful to kind of see that this thing that I accidentally got into has been the exact thing that the people around me need right now. This is exactly what they need, and so I do feel I feel like God has kind of placed me where I am doing what I'm doing for such a time as this. And so I am just getting to the place where I'm really embracing this, and I'm really kind of excited to see where it leads from now, instead of being like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but now it's just like, okay, God, what are we doing? What's next? Yeah.
That's awesome. I absolutely can identify with what you're talking about, and I'm sure many out there can as well. We've talked many times on this show about how we may have a certain idea or plan for our life, and then it goes completely left, or what we think is left, but in actuality, it is right where God wants us to be. And I definitely see how He's done that for you and in your life, and good for you for not resisting it, for following the urgings and the path.
I guess I could say I tried, but God doesn't really take no for an answer. So.
Oh yes, that's true. He will find a way to get you where He wants you. So.
Yes, I did try resisting, so
Yeah. But I think it's a good lesson for all of us that let God lead. Let God lead. And that might mean for you in your career, that might mean for you with knowing what to do with your kids, just whatever the future might hold, let God lead. And it will be okay. okay. We will get through this.
Exactly. We'll get through this.
We will get through this. Thank you so much for being here and sharing everything that you're offering and everything that you're doing. And I just want to go to our scripture for today because I think it's very perfect for this conversation. It actually comes from Matthew 6:33 and 34. It's a very familiar verse. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. So that's the message, guys. That's the message. We know that going back is going to be weird. It's going to be different. It may never be the same as it was before the COVID shutdown. And I think many of us have had to grapple with that over the last year and a half. But that's okay. That's okay. We need to just seek first his kingdom and trust that all things will work together for good. He has a plan and a purpose for us. And so we'll make it. We'll get through it. And the other thing is we have each other. Don't take those loved ones for granted that you have in your life, because it is together that we will get through the difficult times. I'm excited for what the next few weeks will bring as we continue this conversation. We have some wonderful guests lined up next week. Ebony Holland, the super teacher, will be here to talk about how we can work with our kids and how she'll be working with students in this next season, fall season. And we have lots more in store. And we hope that you'll be here with us every step of the way. Until next week, God bless you. Take care.
Hey girl, summer's over. Are you ready to go back? Back to school, back to life, or back to a new normal? If not, that's okay. We'll get through it together. Join us Saturdays in August as we work through what it means to go back. Only on Hey Girl, Saturdays at 5 on Facebook Live.